Hello and welcome back everyone. For my previous video, I created this pygame variable, pygame window, and I create a character here, the player, the red rectangle here, and I also make it move up, up, down, left, and right. So that's just what I did in the previous video, and but the problem with this is that it does not stay in the inside the window, so it exit the window. Like as you can see, the rectangle just left to the left side, and if we go to the right side, it will also disappear. And if we go to the top, it happens too, and the bottom, the same thing. So for this video, we will try to fix this and make the rectangle when it go to the left, it will appear on the right, and when it go to the right, it appear on the left, and it will when it go to the top, it will appear on the bottom, and when it go to the bottom, it will appear on the top. Okay, so let's close this and try to fix it. So remember that the rectangle, we use this px and py to draw it, and the px and py is the value at the top left corner, and the bottom left, the bottom right is just the value px plus pw, and the this one also py plus ph. So the x and y value of the top left corner would be px and py, but the value of the bottom right corner would be px plus pw and py plus ph. So keep that in mind when we are fixing this. And so now we will change the code here, because this seems to be the problem, because when py when we click the up button, the up key, it will continue to just minus the position. It keep minusing this until even if it reach 0, even if it go beyond 0. So we need to somehow make a restriction here so that it won't go um, more than, lower than 0 and more than this amount, the border. So let's create a function if py is smaller than, because when it go here, as you can see, when it move up, the position would be going into the negative, because the position at the start here is the 0 and 0, and when it go down, it will be positive value, and when it go up, it will be negative value. Same thing goes for the left and right key. When it go left, it will be negative value, while when it go right, it will be positive value. So let's try and change this. So we need to check if py is smaller than 0. And if that is true, we need to set the py into another value. So you can see here the border is we actually created the border with 500 width and 500 height. So let's set the py equal 500, and let's copy this code, because there's pretty similar to these. Okay, so now for the down key, we need to change this, because the py will keep increasing. And when it is increasing, we need to check if py is bigger than something. So let's check if py is bigger than 500 here. And if it is true, we will set the py equal 0. And the same thing for the left key, except we change the py into px, and px here also, and this too. But for the right key, we need to change the condition. So px need to check if px is bigger than 500, and if it is true, we need to change the value into 0. Okay, so this seems good. Let's try and run it. Let's close this and clear this and run it again. Okay, so I will move to the left now, and you can see it works just fine, except when like here. For example, as you can see, the rectangle no longer have the square shape like before. It now is a like smaller like rectangle. Why is this happening? Because we when it move, it still have some like some small detail that we need to fix before it can actually appear like this. Like what I want is that to for the rectangle to fully appear as a as a square instead of just like this, a small part of it. So we need to change that. And we know that the border width, the border width and height have the value 500. So that means that when we put the py and px equal 500, it will appear at the edge of the border. So that's why we see only part of it and not the full rectangle. And so to prove it, let me just put the speed 1, and let's try to run it again. Okay, and I will move slowly. And as you can see, the red rectangle appear at the edge of the border of the right side. And when we go to the left side, it appear normally because this is the 0 and this is 500. So we need to somehow change the value 500 into something lesser so that the rectangle would appear fully. So this 500 is actually a hard-coded like constant value. So we need to convert it into a variable so that when we make change to one of these, we can change all of them. So we need to set this 500 into border, width, and border height, border W. Okay, so I will initialize the border H and W. So we set W equal 500, and the same thing goes for height. Okay, so now that we have changed it, we can uh, change these 500 into the border variable. So for the py is the vertical position. So we need to change. We need to compare it with the border h. While the px we will compare with border w. Okay, so now that it's the same code again, we need to somehow change the height into a lesser value. And notice that we have a ph here because the rectangle have the length and height 30. So if you want it to appear fully on the left side, the top left position need to be somewhere around here. So it need to be the length of the border width minus the player width, if that makes sense. I will add the code here. So border height minus player height in a bracket, just to make sure. Okay, let's just copy and paste it. And we do the same thing for the width also. And let's change the height here into W. Okay, so now let's save and run. Close this and run. Okay, so I will try to go left. And as you can see, the rectangle appear fully on the right side. And if I go back, it will also appear fully. And if I go up, it also appear fully. So now that our character understand that this is a border, and when it go to the left, it appear on the right, and when it go to the right, it appear on the left. Top, it appear bottom, and it go bottom, it appear top. So now the player understand this. Let's create a food for the player. So to create a food is uh, the, the exact same way that we create a character with the draw function. So we need to draw pygame, use the same thing. So pygame dot draw dot rec, and the surface is the window, and the color, let's change it into so we have here the all G and B. So I will put it the value green 255 and the value blue 0. Okay, and the position. So we need to actually change the position of the food this time because it can be the same as the player. So let's initialize a new variable for the food. Let's say food X and food Y. Let's just keep it shorter and let's just say fx. Okay, fx and fy and fw and fh. Okay, so the for our fx it will be equal to, I will show you the how to make this into a random number later. So for now, let's just make it a fixed value. Let's say 200, and the same goes for fy. And the width and height just let's say 40, and the height too equal 40. Okay, and also change the speed because the last time is pretty slow. So let's keep it at 3, and let's close this and go back here. Run it, and something is wrong here. Let's check. Oh, it's because we didn't add the value here yet. So let's add the position of the food, fx, fy. The case it is case sensitive, so make sure you have the right case in fw and fh. Okay, let's save and run. Okay, so now we have a player here and a food here. Let's try to go to the food, and if we go there, as you can see, the food is in front of the character and there's nothing happening. So that's just basically because we just create a the line here. We just simply draw a rectangle in the screen somewhere with the color this and the position this. So that's why there's no interaction at all when we touch it with the player, and when we move the up arrow key, there's no interaction with it because what we're changing is the only the position of the player and not the food because we just initialize it. As you can see, there's no code that actually mess around with the position of the food. So that's why there's no change in the food position or size or anything. That's why the food is just some static, like almost like a background, but it appears in front of our character. So that's just the basic for the for now. So now we have learned how to make the our character stay within the border, and also learn how to make the character appear uh, like on the opposite side of the border when we reach the end. And we also created a new rectangle here in the middle of the screen, which we call food. Okay, so for my next video, I will show you how to make the food interact with the player. For example, when the player touch the food will disappear and appear somewhere else random with a random number. So this is it for now, and thank you for watching.